You're watching Behind the Headlines. I'm Pacchia. Now that we're on the other side of the holiday season, we have a pretty clear idea of how big law firms are going to pay out associate bonuses for 2012. As with many things in life, it's a bit of a mixed picture. So here to sort it all out, we're pleased to say we have David Latt from Above the Law. Welcome back, David. Happy New Year.
Great. Happy New Year to you, Lee.
Okay, so take us through what we saw in the last 6 to 8 weeks of 2012. Which law firm's bonus story surprised you the most?
Well, I would say probably that of the market leader, Cravath, which is the firm that most of the other major law firms tend to follow when it comes to bonus amounts.
Mm-hmm. Has it always been that way? Or
yes, at least as long as I can remember. Certainly back when I graduated from law school in the late 1990s, I think Cravath was generally the bellwether or the market leader, at least in terms of the firm that the most number of firms tend to follow. There are some firms that pay more than Cravath, and we can talk about that too, but Cravath tends to be the one that everyone follows.
And what was the big surprise in the Cravath story?
Well, I think the surprise, and the pleasant surprise, was that the amounts were significantly higher than last year, than 2011. For the past couple of years, since the financial crisis, bonus amounts, for the most part, at Cravath and other major law firms have remained you could call it either stagnant or stable, depending on your point of view. This year, they edged up a bit. The most junior associates, the class of 2012, received a prorated $10,000. The class of 2011, the true first years, received a full $10,000. And the most senior associates received a bonus of $60,000. And these numbers were up significantly from the year prior, where the comparable amounts were $7,500 to first-year associates and a little under $40,000 for the most senior ones. So the numbers are definitely looking up.
Now, we're still lower than the pre-crash levels, right? Are we talking about a dead cat bounce here, or is this a true comeback?
I would call it a measured comeback. I wouldn't call it a dead cat bounce in the sense that I think BigLaw is far from dead. I think that they actually weathered the Great Recession not too badly compared to some industries. The classes are a lot smaller. Many of the firms are smaller, but they're still doing work. They're still serving their clients, and they're still making loads of money for their partners. So they're doing okay.
Yeah, that's where I want to go next. When we talk about associate bonuses in the media, is there something meaningful that we can glean from these stories about the state of play in BigLaw, or is it more gossip, or is it some mixture of the two?
I think you can glean a certain amount of information from these bonuses. They do reflect, in part, how law firms are doing. Certainly, take 2007, the last big year before the financial crisis. In that year, at most firms, Cravath and the firms that follow Cravath, the bonuses, totaling a regular bonus and a special bonus, ranged from $45,000 for first years to $110,000 for the most senior people. Compare that to this year, where they go from 10 to 60. Clearly, 2007 was a much better year for law firms than 2012. But in the intervening years, in some ways, they become less valuable at signaling, in the sense that I think firms were somewhat cautious in some of those first post-crash years. They probably paid out less in bonuses than they needed to. And so the fact that the bonuses stayed flat during that sort of 08 to 2011 period doesn't say that much necessarily, because I think the firms were being cautious and wanted to make sure that they were still keeping enough, for themselves, essentially.
I want to talk about the Weil Gotshal situation. You guys reported on your blog that associates were rankled over the firm's decision to pay bonuses at the end of January 2013 rather than at the end of 2012. Yes. Why was this such a big deal?
Well, at the time, we were still facing the prospect of going over the so-called fiscal cliff. And some of the more senior Weil Gotshal associates would be put into the over $250,000 category by that, by the additional income. And so they felt that the firm, some of them at least, felt that the firm was essentially throwing them off the fiscal cliff. That is, it was putting the extra income to the associates in 2013 when they would face higher taxes. And so that's why I think that some of the associates were upset. As it turns out, even though, well, some of us, I guess, will face a higher tax bill because of the phase-out of the payroll tax cut, for the most part, under the deal that was struck by President Obama and Congress, most of these associates probably will not be affected by the resolution to the fiscal cliff drama. So perhaps they are somewhat less upset now than they might have been back in November, December, when it looked like they might be facing a significantly higher tax bill.
Now, when we talk about bonuses in BigLaw, there appear to be two main approaches, Lockstep and individualized. You've been following this story for years. Do you see one method prevailing over the other?
I would say that generally over the past 6 or so years that we've been covering this at Above the Law, and also before that when I was an associate at a law firm, I would say that there is some momentum in the direction of individualized compensation. You certainly saw that trend pick up steam during the Great Recession and its aftermath, when firms started to customize bonuses. Cynics or critics of the firms would say they started to customize them in order to pay people less, as opposed to under a lockstep system where people are paid basically based on their seniority. How many years are out of law school are they? So you started to see the individualization trend pick up during the recession. I think now it has reached some kind of equilibrium. I would think that over the long term you may see more individualization, partly because that is essentially how the large corporate clients of these law firms pay their people. If you go to a major company, a consumer products company, an auto company, a tech company, not everyone of the same seniority or the same age makes the same amount. So critics might say Lockstep doesn't make sense. On the other hand, the Lockstep firms with a strong tradition of that say that it reduces internal competition, it promotes teamwork, and it reduces the envy and the second guessing that sometimes take place with individualized systems.
David, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks so much, Lee.
That's David Latt from Above the Law. If you'd like to learn more about the issues we just discussed, be sure to go check out our offerings on BloombergLaw.com and also on the Bloomberg Terminal. You can see more of our videos on YouTube, and you can follow our updates on Twitter. I'm Pacchia. Thanks for watching.